Hi guys, this is Allison from Alleycat Creations. How are you? Please hit that like, share, and subscribe if you have yet to do so. And if you get anything from my work, a connected dot, an epiphany, a mind-blown moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my channel, myself. All the links are down there. I had some exploration happening, and I have these really cool skull molds, and I had access pink, and I put flowers in it and gems, all Valentine's Day stuff, and on the bottom I have some copper. I have to trim the sides, but really cool. I might be making more of these with floral and gems, or just plain colors. Very cool. Didn't think that was going to come out good. So, hi everybody. Sorry I've been a little absent. Been having some, they're not my family just yet, but I'm being incorporated in the Viking and the girls, and there's been some issues the last couple of days that they needed my attention and help. So doing this extremely early in the morning so I get this out because I want a video out for you guys. I have to go babysit. And there's no way I'm doing a video over there. No way, Jose. So today we're going to do The Secret Doctrine by Blavatsky, Ancient Thought in Modern Dress. It should be very interesting. Note, I tried doing this video yesterday and the doorbell rang and my day got sidetracked. There are going to be names in here and things I cannot pronounce properly, project with my mouth. So I do apologize up front for those things, those names, and whatever have you. Modern science is ancient thought distorted and no more. We have seen, however, what intuitional scientists think and are busy about, and now the reader may be given a few more proofs of the fact that more than one FRS is unconsciously approaching the derided secret sciences. Also, allergies are hitting. Let's go coffee. With regard to cosmogony and primeval matter, modern speculations are undeniably ancient thought, improved by contradictory theories of recent origin, but the whole foundation belongs to Grecan and Indian archaic astronomy and physics, in those days always called philosophy. In all the Aryan and Greek speculations, one meets with the conception of an all-pervading, unorganized, and homogeneous matter, or chaos, renamed by modern scientists, nebular condition of world stuff. This was the name. What Anaxagora called chaos in his Homomeria is now called primitive fluid by Sir W. Thomson. The Hindu and Greek atomists, Cananda, Leucippus, Democritus, Epicurus, Lucretius, etc., are now reflected as in a clear mirror in the supporters of an ending with the vortical atoms of Sir W. Thomson. Sorry, I totally skipped a line because I can't see with my eyeball. All right, let me go back. etc., are now reflected as a clear mirror in the supporters of the atomic theory of our modern days, beginning with Leibniz, the monads, and the ending with the vortical atoms. There we go. Of Sir W. Thomson. True, the corpuscular theory of old is rejected, and the undulatory theory has taken its place. But the question is whether the latter is so firmly established as not to be liable to be dethroned as was its predecessor. Light from its metaphysical aspects was fully treated of in Isis Unveiled. Light is the first begotten and the first emanation of the supreme and life and light, says the evangelist and the Kabbalist. Both are electricity, the life principle, the anima mundi, pervading the universe, the electric vivifier of all things. Light is the great Hoshian magician, and under the divine will of the architect, or rather the architects, the builders, called one collectively, its malfurious, omnipotent waves gives birth to every form, as well as to every living being. From its swelling electric bosom spring matter and spirit. Within its beam lie the beginning of the physical and chemical action and all cosmic and spiritual phenomena. It vitalizes and disorganizes. It gives life and produces death. And from its primordial point gradually emerge into existence the myriads of worlds, visible and invisible celestial bodies. It was at the ray of the first mother, 1 in 3, that God, according to Plato, lighted a fire, which we now call the sun, and which is not the cause of either light or heat, but merely the focus, or as we might say, the lens, by which the rays of the primordial light become materialized, are concentrated upon our solar system and produce the correlation of forces. This is the ether, or just explained in the views of Metcalfe, repeated by Dr. Richardson, save the submission of the former to some details of the modern undulatory theory. We do not say that we deny the theory, but assert only that it needs completion and rearrangement. But the occultists are by no means the only heretics in this respect. For Mr. Robert Hunt, FRS, remarks in his researches on light and in its chemical relations that the undulatory theory does not account for the results of the experiments. Sir David Brewster, in his treatise on optics, showing that the colors of vegetable life arise from a specific attraction with the particles of these bodies exercise over the differently colored rays of light, and that it is by the light of the sun that the colored juices of plants are elaborated, that the colors of the bodies are changed, remarks that it is not easy to allow that such effects can be produced by the mere vibration of an ethereal medium. And his force, he says, by the classes of facts to reason as if light was material. Professor Josiah P. Cook of Harvard University says that he cannot agree with those who regard the wave theory of light as an established principle of science. Herschel's doctrine that the intensity of the light in effect of its undulation is inversely as the square of the distance from the luminous body, if correct, damages a good deal if it does not kill the undulatory theory. That he is right was proven repeatedly by experiments with photometers. And though it begins to be much doubted, the undulatory theory is still alive, Isis Unveiled. To this remark, Sir W. Brewster forced to reason as if light was material, there's a good deal to reply. Light, in one sense, is certainly a material as electricity itself is. And if electricity is not material, if it is only a mode of motion, how is it that it can be stored up in Fourier's accumulators? Helmholtz says that electricity must be an atom as matter. And Mr. W. Crookes, FRS, supported the view in his address to the chemicals section of British Association, of which he was president at Birmingham, 1886. This is what Helmholtz says. If we accept the hypothesis that the elementary substances are composed of atoms, we cannot avoid concluding that the electricity, also positive as well as negative, is divided into definite elementary portions, which behave like atoms as electricity. Here we have to repeat that which was already said in section 9. There is but one science that can henceforth direct modern research into one path, which will lead to the discovery of the whole. Here too, occult truth, and it is the youngest of all chemistry as it now stands reformed. There is no other, no excluding astronomy, that can unerring guide scientific intuition as chemistry can. Two proofs of it are to be found in the world of science, two great chemists, each among the greatest in his own country. And these are Mr. Crookes and the late Professor Butler, one a thorough believer in abnormal phenomena, the other a fervid spiritualist, as he has great in natural sciences. It becomes evident that while pondering over the ultimate divisibility of matter, and in the hereto fruitless chase after the element of negative atom weight, the scientifically trained mind of the chemist must feel irresistibly drawn towards those ever-shrouded worlds, to the mysterious beyond, whose measureless depths seem to close against the approach of the too materialistic hand that would fain draw aside its veil. It is the unknown and the ever unknowable, warns the monist agnostic. Not so, answered the perversing chemist. We are the sorry guys, I'm battling here. We are on the track and are not daunted and fain when we enter the mysterious region with ignorance, tickets unknown. A few lines at the very close of his lecture on the genesis of the elements. Two of these sentences show the eminent scientist to be on the royal road to the greatest discoveries. He has been overshadowing for some time the original prototile, and came to the conclusion that he who grasped the key will be permitted to unlock some of the deepest mysteries of creation. The prototile, as the great chemist explains, is a word analogous to protoplasm, to express the idea of the original primordial matter, existing before the evolution of the chemical elements. The word I have ventured to use for the purpose is compounds of earlier, and then, I don't know the symbols, guys, sorry. The word is sacredly new coinage. For 600 years ago, Robert Bacon wrote in his Arte Chemicae. The elements are made out of, I don't know what that is, and every element is converted into nature of another element. I don't know if that's in Greek. It looks like it is. The knowledge of Roger Bacon did not come to this wonderful old magician by inspiration, but because he studied ancient works on magic and alchemy, having a key to the real meaning of the words. But see what Mr. Crookes says of prototile, next neighbor to the unconscious multipracty of the occultist. Let us start at the moment when the first element came into existence. Before this time, matter as we know it was not. It is equally impossible to conceive of matter without energy, as of energy without matter. From one point of view, both are convertible terms. Before the birth of atoms at all, those forms of energy which become evident with the matter acts upon matter could not have existed. There we lock up in the protile as latent potentialities only, coincident with the creation of atoms. All these attributes and properties, which form the means of discriminating one chemical element from another, start into existence fully endowed with energy. With every respect due to the great knowledge of the lecturer, the occultists would put it otherwise. They would say that no atom is ever created, for the atoms are internal within the bosom of the one atom, the atom of atoms. Viewed during Manvarata as the Jargayani, the material causative womb of the world. Padhana, unmodified matter, which is the first form of prakti, or material visible as well as invisible nature, and Purusha, spirit, are eternally one. And there are neuroprati, without advantageous qualities of or attributes, only during pralaya, and when beyond any of the planes of consciousness of existence. The atom, as known to modern science, is inseparable from Purusha, which is spirit, but is now called energy in science. The protile atom has not been commuted or subutized. It has simply passed into the plane, which is no plane, but the eternal state of everything beyond the planes of illusion. Both Purusha and Pradhana are immutable and unconsumable, or not getting that word, or the other one, in eternity, and both during the Mayavic periods may be referred to as Vaya, and the other word I cannot get, or that which can expand, express, and pass away and disappear, and it is modifiable. In this sense, Purusha must, of course, be held distinct in our conceptions from Parabrahman. Nevertheless, that which is called energy or force in science has been explained as dual force by Metcalfe, is never in fact and cannot be energy alone, for it is the substance of the world, its soul, the all-permanent sarvaga, in conjunction with kala, time. The three are the Trinity in one, during Manvarata, the one potential unity, with acts on the plane of illusion, Maya, as three distinct things. In Orphic philosophy in Greece, they were called Phanes, Chaos, and Chronos, the triad of the occult philosophers of that period. But see how closely Mr. Crookes brushes by the unknowable and what potentialities there are for the acceptance of occult truths. In his discoveries, he continues speaking of the evolution of atoms. Let us pause at the moment of the first complete vibration and examine the result. We have already found the elements of water, ammonia, carbonic acid, the atmosphere, plant and animal life, phosphorus for the brain, salt for the seas, clay for the sodded earth, phosphates and silicates, sufficient for a world and its inhabitants, not so very different from what we enjoy at the present day. True, the human inhabitants would have to live in the state of more than Arcadian simplicity, and the absence of calcic phosphate would be awkward as far as the bone is concerned. At the lower end of our curve, we see a great hiatus. This oasis and blanks, which precede and follow it, may be referred with much probability to the particular way in which our Earth developed into a member of our solar system. If this be so, it may be that on our Earth only these blanks occur and not generally throughout the universe. This justifies several assertions in the occult works. Firstly, that neither stars nor the sun can be said to be constituted of their terrestrial elements with which the chemist is familiar, though they are all present in the sun's outward robes and a host more of elements so far unknown to science. Secondly, that our globe has its own special laboratory on the faraway outskirts of its atmosphere, crossing which every atom and molecule change and differentiate from their primordial nature. And thirdly, that though no element present on our earth could ever be possibly found wanting in the sun, there are many others which have either not reached or not as yet been discovered on the globe. Some may be missing in certain stars and heavenly bodies in the process of formation, or though present in them, these elements on account of their present state may not respond as yet to the unusual scientific tests. Mr. Crook speaks of an element of still lower atomic weight than hydrogen, an element purely hypothetical as far as our Earth is concerned. Though existing in abundance in the chromosphere of the sun, the helium, occult science adds, that not one of the elements regarded by chemistry as such deserves the name. Again, we find Mr. Crook speaking with admiration of Dr. Carneley's weighty argument in favor of the component nature of the so-called elements from their analogy to the compound radicals. Here too, alchemy alone succeeded within the historical periods and in the so-called civilized countries in obtaining a real element or a particle of homogeneous matter, the mysterium magnum of Paracelsus. But then it was before Lord Bacon's day. Let us now turn to the upper portion of the scheme. With hydrogen as atomic weight 1, there is little room for other elements save perhaps for hypothetical helium. But that if we get through the looking glass and cross the zero line in search of new principles, what shall we find on the other side of zero? Dr. Carneley asks for an element of negative atomic weight. Here is ample room and verge enough for a shadow series of such unsubstantialities. Helmholtz says the electricity is probably as atomic as matter. Is electricity one of the negative elements, and the luminiferous ether another? Matter as we know it does not here exist. The forms of energy which are apparent in the motions of matter are as yet only latent possibilities. A substance of negative weight is not inconceivable. Sorry, guys. Inconceivable. But we can form a clear conception of a body which combines with other bodies in proportions expressible by negative qualities. A genius of the elements such as is here sketched out would not be confined to our little solar system, but would probably follow the same general sequence of events in every center of energy now visible as a star. Before the birth of atoms to gravitate towards one another, no pressure could be exercised. But at the outskirts of the first mere sphere, within which all is protile, at the shell on which the tremendous forces involved in the birth of a chemical element exert full sway, the fierce heat would be accompanied by gravitational sufficient to keep the newly born elements from flying off into space. As temperature increases, expansion and molecular motion increases, molecules tend to fly asunder and their chemical affinities become deadened. But the enormous pressure of the gravitation of the mass of atomic matter outside what I may, for brevity, call the birth shell would counteract the action of heat. Sorry, guys, there's something going on in my eye that I cannot see clearly. Everything is fuzzy, so my seeing things in the words are flipping. So I do apologize for that. Beyond the birth shell would be a space which no chemical action could take place owing to the temperature there being above what is called the dissociation point of compounds. In this space, the lion and the lamb would lie down together. Phosphorus and oxygen would mix without union. Hydrogen and chlorine would show no tendency to closer bonds, and even fluorine, that energetic gas which chemists have only isolated within the last few months or two, would float about free and uncombined. Outside the space of free atomic matter would be another shell in which the formed chemical elements would have cooled down to the combination point, and the sequence of events so graphically described by Mr. Matthew Williams in The Fuel of the Sun would now take place, culminating in the solid earth and the commencement of geological time. This is, in a strictly scientific but beautiful language, the description of the evolution of the differentiated universe in the Secret Teachings. The learned gentleman closes his address in words, every sentence of which is like a flash of light from beyond the dark veil of materiality, hereto thrown upon the exact sciences and a step forward towards the sanctum sanctorum of occult. We have glanced at the difficulty of defining an element. We have noticed, too, the revolt of many leading physicists and chemists against the ordinary acceptation of the term element. We have weighed the improbability of their eternal existence or their origination by chance. As a remaining alternative, we have suggested their origin by a process of evolution like that of the heavenly bodies according to Laplace, and the plants and animals of our globe according to Lamarck, Darwin, and Wallace. In the general array of elements as known to us, we have seen a striking approximation to that of the organic world. In lack of direction, evidence of the decomposition of any element, we sought and found indirect evidence. We have next glanced at the view of the genesis of the elements, and lastly, we have reviewed a scheme of their origin suggested by Professor Reynolds' method of illustrating the periodic classification. Summing up the above considerations, we cannot indeed venture to assert positively that our so-called elements have been evolved from one primordial matter, but we may contend with the balance of evidence, I think, fairly weighs in favor of this speculation. Thus, inductive science, in its branches of astronomy, physics, and chemistry, while advancing timidly towards the conquest of nature's secrets and her final effects on our terrestrial plane, recedes to the days of Anaxagoras and the Chaldees in its discoveries of the origin of our phenomenal world and the modes of formation of the bodies that compose the universe. And having to turn back to their cosmogonical hypothesis, to the beliefs of the earliest philosophers and the systems of the latter, systems that were all based on the teachings of a universal secret doctrine with regard to the primeval matter, with its properties, functions, and laws. Have we not the right to hope that the day is not far off when science will show a better appreciation of the wisdom of the ancients than it has hereto done? No doubt occult philosophy could learn a good deal from exact modern science, but the latter, on the other hand, might profit for ancient learning in more than one way, and chiefly in cosmogony. For instance, the mystical signification, alchemical and transcendental, of the many improbable substances that fill interplanetary space, in which interpenetrating each are the direct cause at the lower end of the production of natural phenomena manifesting through vibration, so called. The knowledge of the real, not the hypothetical nature of ether, or the rather of the akasa, and other mysteries, in short, can alone lead to the knowledge of forces. It is a substance against which the materialistic school of the physicists rebels with such fury, especially in France. And when exact science has to advocate notwithstanding, they cannot make way with it without incurring the risk, like a modern Samson, of pulling down the pillars of the temple of science and getting buried under its roof. The theories built upon the rejection of force outside and independent of matter, pure and simple, have been all shown fallacious, that they do not and cannot cover the ground, and many of the scientific data are thus proved unscientific. Ether produced sound is said in the Puranas, and the statement is laughed at. It is the vibrations in the air we are corrected. And what is air? Could it exist if there were no etheric medium in the space to buoy up its molecules? The case stands simply thus: materialism cannot admit the existence of anything outside matter, because with the acceptance of an improbable force, the source and the head of all the physical forces, other intelligent forces, would have to be omitted virtually, and that would lead science very far, for it would have to accept as a sequential the presence in man of a still more spiritual power, entirely independent for once of any kind of matter physicists know anything about. Hence, apart from a hypothetical ether of space and gross physical bodies, the whole side real and unseen space is, in the sight of the materialist, one boundless void in nature, blind and unintelligent uses. And now the next question is, what is the cosmic substance, and how far can one go to suspect its nature or to wrench from it its secrets? And this feels justified in giving it a name. How far especially has modern science gone in the direction of those secrets? And what is the doing to solve them? The latest hobby of science, the nebula theory, may afford us some answer to this question. Let us then examine the credentials of the nebula theory, and that will be our next read. So the things I bring up on this channel and my other episodes and series of talks, I do talk about how we need to bridge the metaphysical, spiritual to science. Blavatsky is trying to do it in her time, but if she was alive now, I wonder what she could even grasp on the quantum level. What is going on in quantum physics? What's going on in entanglement? What's going on in our world today? How would she stack up her book and bring it into the here and now? That would be mind-blowing, to say the least. She brings up a lot of good stuff, and unfortunately doesn't have much to work with in terms of what we have now. Back then, publications and research, not that it wasn't hard to grasp or get, it's if you didn't understand the language, you didn't really understand what they were talking about. Very interesting, to say the least. And I think a lot of us can concur that Tesla was on that. He already had it. Just wouldn't let it come out that ether does exist, and it is a part of matter. We are electrical. We conduct electricity. So there has to be something behind all of this, that we can bridge spirituality and science together and stop the nonsense of infighting. It should be very interesting. So guys, please go check out my website, Allylattkreations211.com, if you're interested in any of my creations that I make or customize for others. All that information, you can go down in the description. You can email me if you're interested in anything. I can make it personalized for you. Please don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe. Sorry, guys, I am very much needing to take some kind of antihistamine, and my fun supplements so that I am not gushing out all over and butchering readings. So until next time, guys, I hope all of you are having a great time. Have a great weekend. I hope to see you guys on the next one. Hopefully that is going to be more consistent. The last 3 days has been bananas. So until the next time, guys, have a great one. Be safe, be seen. Sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, shielding, and protection energy. Keep your heads on strong, and remember, stop manifesting the world that they want you to create for them. Create your world. Bye, guys.